Headline News, I'm Jane Akre. The leaders of 5 crime families may soon be under arrest in New York. The FBI says leaks in the news media may force police to go ahead with arrests of several crime figures. The news was leaked yesterday when further indictments were revealed in the Pizza Connection heroin ring. Search for U.S. drug agent continues. Mexican police have arrested 4 men who may be involved in the kidnapping of Enrique Camarena Salazar. But as Don Farmer reports, the agent's whereabouts are still unknown.
Suspect Tomas Morlet is the man who allegedly planned the kidnapping of U.S. drug agent Enrique Camarena Salazar. He was arrested on Sunday, along with 2 others, on a road between Tijuana and Mexicali. A 4th suspect was arrested in Guadalajara Monday. Mexican authorities allowed reporters to question Morlet and his 2 companions Monday in Tijuana. The authorities also showed off weapons and police badges the 3 allegedly had in their possession when they were arrested. All 3 were carrying police identification, but it is unclear whether any of them is currently affiliated with any Mexican police force. The alleged ringleader, Morlet, told reporters that he retired recently after 22 years in the Mexican Federal Security Directorate. He denied he had anything to do with the kidnapping, and he said Mexican authorities are trying to make him a scapegoat. Here is a portion of what Morlet said.
Morlet said this is a show. It's funny police of this caliber are so wrong. All I'm interested in now is writing a book.
American officials say Mexican drug dealers ordered Agent Camarena kidnapped to intimidate other drug agents. But the deputy administrator of the Drug Enforcement Agency, John Lawn, says the plan will not work.
What, in fact, the traffickers are saying is that they have been hurt and they are retaliating the only way they know how, and that is by fear and intimidation. What they don't know is that fear and intimidation does not work with law enforcement people.
As for the kidnapped agent, U.S. officials say they have no information about Camarena's safety or his whereabouts. Don Farmer, CNN, reporting.
The State Department says a Polish diplomat and his wife have until Wednesday to get out of the United States. This after a U.S. diplomat and his wife were kicked out of Poland, charged as being spies. The Polish government says the Americans were caught taking pictures of military equipment. The U.S. State Department also postponed planned science talks between the 2 nations. New Zealand Prime Minister David Lange is in Los Angeles. He's in the U.S. to defend his country's ban on the docking of nuclear-powered and nuclear-armed warships. The ban has put a strain on U.S. relations and has threatened the 34-year-old ANZUS alliance. A carrot and a stick approach toward Nicaragua. President Reagan is considering opening a campaign to tell the public what's at stake in order to get more money to topple Nicaragua's government. The policy is thought to include economic incentives, which would encourage the Sandinistas to implement dramatic reforms. Israel says it welcomes Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak's call for U.S.-sponsored talks on the Arab-Israeli conflict. But Israeli Prime Minister Shimon Peres doesn't want the PLO in on the talks because he says they're terrorists. Mubarak says he'll keep working toward Mideast peace. Balance the budget or bail out the farmers. That's a major concern in Washington, where legislators from 13 breadbasket states have gathered in support of farmers. Mary Tillotson reports.
While debate started on the Senate floor about if and how to change farm credit, governors and local legislators from the country's Midwestern breadbasket converged on Washington to tell people at the White House and in Congress that change is needed.
But the current Farmers Home program is a joke, and we aren't getting anywhere. And Farmers Home is a big joke. We call it manure at home.
State officials from the Dakotas, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas came to Washington to say federal loans and loan guarantees for farmers are snarled in red tape, when farmers need that money now for spring planting. Democratic farm state senators are hoping to attach an amendment to an African aid bill that would offer farmers advanced payments against crop loans they would normally expect to get next fall. The Democrats also hope to pass an amendment that would make direct federal farm loans easier to get. Democrats hope to bring those amendments to a vote Tuesday and predict votes against the farm legislation will echo into 1986.
I'm sure that it will be an issue in the next election with any senator who does not take the opportunity to do everything that that senator can do to deal with this crisis.
But Majority Leader Robert Dole insisted to his own Kansas farm constituents that the administration's existing farm program is a good one, and the best help Congress can be to farmers is not to bail them out, but to balance the budget. Dole said any farm legislation with a fat price tag would probably be vetoed by President Reagan, then face a veto override fight that could run into May or June, well beyond the spring planting season. I don't know what we're fighting about, said Dole. except politics. Mary Tillotson, CNN, Capitol Hill.
The nation's governors vote today on a resolution to freeze domestic spending for 1 year. Included on the gubernatorial hit list are the Pentagon and cost of living increases in Social Security. They're also seeking a tax hike. Kansas Governor John Carlin says the states have already done their share, but President Reagan says we're not in Kansas anymore.
Today, the people no longer look to Washington as an emerald city with magic solutions to every problem. I've been here going on 5 years now, and I can tell you it's more like the Twilight Zone than the Land of Oz.
And the point was made in here today that really disturbed me that the recovery has brought about the bulk of these resources in the states. We've raised taxes. Yes, there's been a recovery, but we raised taxes to balance our budget. In 43 states, we did that.
Heavy flooding in the Midwest blamed for at least 4 deaths and the destruction of several homes. Ralph Wengi has more.
It's a major worry every winter. First come the heavy snows, then the rain and the unseasonably warm weather. And this is the result, flooding. This year, it's widespread, stretching all the way from New York State to Oklahoma. More than 100 people had to be evacuated yesterday in one Oklahoma town. 50 homes and 15 businesses were damaged. The Osho River reached a crest of more than 13 feet above flood stage. And the Lieutenant Governor of Oklahoma, Spencer Bernard, declared a state of emergency. In northern Ohio, hundreds of families were forced from their homes when a dozen rivers flooded. Most of those people are being given shelter in churches and schools. In Defiance, about 60 miles north of Toledo, college students and government workers filled sandbags and helped about 200 people move away from the Maumee River. Rose nearly 9 feet above its banks. Mary Carr found out how helpful people can be when she had to leave her home.
Thank God for the help we did get last night. There was about 15 guys that come in and move my furniture.
The Red Cross was able to put up many people at a local church. Their worry now, what will they find when they return to their homes? The mayor of Defiance, Tom Weissman, has already declared a state of emergency, which will allow the city to try to get state aid. That would include National Guard troops to help with evacuations and the cleanup. In western New York State, the waters have been receding, but in the Buffalo suburb of Amherst, people have had to be evacuated from their homes. The town supervisor, Jack Sharp, says he'll ask Governor Mario Cuomo for disaster aid. And the town engineer says Amherst hasn't seen flooding this bad since 1960. Ralph Wengi, CNN.
Around the world, around the clock, this is Headline News.
All Best Westerns have 3 things in common.
Harold, I'm checking this place out.
First, they pass a regular 1,000-point inspection to please even the most discriminating guest. Second, our rates are as comforting as our rooms. Third, Best Westerns are part of the world's largest and most distinctive lodging chain.
The Terrace.
Whether you're traveling on business or pleasure, stay at the right place at the right price.
Call 1-800-528-1234. Best Western.
Let me in.
We like kicks for what kicks has got. I like kicks for what kicks has not. Kicks are corny. And kicks are punks.
Kicks does none of that funny stuff.
No added colors. Kicks doesn't need them. No added flavors. We love to eat them. Low in sugar, so they're not too sweet. A bowl of kicks is bound to eat. We like kicks for what kicks has got. I like kicks for what kicks has not.
Kicks.
Fantastic.
Mother approved.
Yeah.
How about a bite of your soup?
Take small bites.
Bite of mine for a bite of yours. Every chunky beef soup is so full of good things, you actually have to take big bites. Big bites of tender beef, bites of potato, bites of carrot. Every spoonful is a mouthful. You get bite after delicious bite in every bowlful of Campbell's Chunky Beef Soups. The soup that eats like a meal.
Roses is red, violets is blue. Meat and potatoes is Dinty Moore stew.
You heard the champ. Dinty Moore beef stew.
It's a real meat and potatoes meal. Pilgrim.
Just eat. Bon appetit. Bon appetit.
It's an offer you can't refuse.
Try Dinty Moore beef stew.
Andrew Frederick gets a show of support. Subway gunman Bernhard Goetz says Frederick was right when he defended a candy seller in New York subway. Jeannie Mose has more.
Those possibilities.
Andrew Frederick seems scared to death, facing reporters flanked by his attorneys. This young man, who has never been in trouble with the law before, is suddenly the center of attention. On his way to work last Thursday, Frederick came across two men allegedly stealing candy from a subway newsstand operator.
I said to the two individuals, why don't you leave the man alone and act like human beings?
The two allegedly turned on Frederick, one of them swinging a bottle. Frederick pulled a pocket knife and fatally stabbed his alleged attacker. The New York press dubbed Frederick the Subway Avenger, a nickname he doesn't want.
I didn't avenge anyone. I'm not an avenger. I'm not a vigilante. I'm a human being, a good citizen.
Bernhard Goetz apparently agrees and says he knows what Frederick is going through. 2 months ago, Goetz shot 4 youths who he says were hassling him. A grand jury cleared Goetz of the most serious charges, and now federal authorities say they won't try to prosecute him. Sunday, Goetz showed up at Frederick's arraignment and said more people should do what Frederick did.
The public should relate to this man. Now, this is clearly a case of self-defense. When you're struck with a bottle, you don't know what's going to happen next.
Frederick still isn't sure what will happen next. He's free without bail, awaiting grand jury action.
I didn't go looking for trouble. I tried to stop trouble. And I found myself in a situation defending myself. I would defend you. I would defend you. I would defend you.
His attorneys portray Frederick as a good Samaritan. They say at the time of the incident he was carrying a copy of the New Testament, then simply acted on the scripture that says, "You are your brother's keeper." Jeannie Mose, CNN, New York.
A Detroit paperboy dubbed a hero. Colin Boatwright wrestled with a man twice his size who police say was trying to molest an 11-year-old girl. The teenager says he heard the girl's screams just after finishing his Sunday paper route.
And I ran up on the porch and dropped my bag and ran over to the house and went inside, and I heard the little girl say, "It hurt." Then my mouth like to fell off after I heard this. I asked him, where was he going? He said, "He going home." I said, "No, you're not." And then he said, "Come on, now don't hit me with that stick, please." And then the police came after I got him onto the gate.
Environmentalists say chemical waste from a nearby Silicon Valley plant may endanger millions of migratory birds in San Francisco Bay. But high-tech manufacturers say that there's not enough evidence. Greg Lefebvre has more.
Every day, biologist Roy Lowe sees more and more birds come into a new wildlife sanctuary here at the south end of San Francisco Bay. But he fears for many of the ducks, civilization may have already taken its toll. Massive concentrations of the element selenium are showing up in 2 breeds of ducks known as scops and scoters.
We don't know where it's coming from, we don't know how it got into the environment, and it may be that we can't take it out, we don't know.
A Fish and Wildlife study showed selenium concentrations averaging 34 parts per million. Scientists blame similar levels for deformities in ducks at the Kesterson Wildlife Refuge in Central California. In the water, selenium clings to microorganisms, which mussels and clams use for food.
And obviously the duck's eating quite a few of these on a daily average, so then they in turn concentrate more up the line.
Some here are quick to blame the area's semiconductor industry, which uses selenium and discharges traces of it into the wastewater. State officials are not so sure. Dave Smith of California's Water Quality Control Board says selenium from Silicon Valley wastewater is no higher than naturally occurring selenium levels already in the bay.
Selenium is a natural component of the geology of the area.
What baffles scientists is not knowing whether the selenium levels in the water are any higher than they've always been. They just don't know if this is an environmental catastrophe in the making or just us. Greg Lefebvre, CNN, San Francisco Bay.
Medicare patients are being discharged quicker and sicker in order to save money. A government committee on aging released those comments after a preliminary report on Medicare's new payment system. The study says the system now sets treatment rates in advance and reduces the length of a patient's hospital stay. Only a small number of American babies, about 1 in 20, suffers from low birth weights. But as John Gibson reports, the costs for helping these tiny infants survive can be enormous.
These babies in San Francisco are considered normal birth weight, over 5.5 pounds or 2,500 grams. They will go home after a short stay in the hospital nursery at a cost of perhaps $1,000. This baby had a low birth weight, under 2,500 grams. It will be in neonatal intensive care for weeks at a huge cost.
If a baby goes into a neonatal intensive care unit and it's less than 2,500 grams, it's going to cost between $12,000 and $200,000 to take care of that baby in a neonatal intensive care unit. Whereas if it was over 2,500 grams and maybe perhaps had to go to the neonatal intensive care anyway, let's say it had to have neonatal intensive care, that might cost only $3,000 to $6,000.
Dr. Carol Korenbrot is a consultant to the new study on low birth weight babies. 6% of the babies in this country are low birth weight, leading to the possibility of cerebral palsy, mental retardation, vision problems, and seizure conditions. They will not necessarily die at birth of extremely low weight. With technology, hospitals were finding they could save the life of a small baby after it was born, but it turns out it's more cost-effective to save it before it's born. Korenbrot says 2 factors increase the chances of a normal birth weight baby: prenatal care at 1/3 the cost of neonatal intensive care, and if the mother quits smoking. In San Francisco, John Gibson for CNN.
More news after this.
In just a few seconds, you're going to hear about the biggest offer Time magazine has ever made, including a fantastic free gift. So stay right where you are, and I'll be back to tell you how to get it all.
You like to keep up with what's going on in the world, don't you?
You bet.
Well, if you call this toll-free number, you get Time magazine for almost half off the cover price.
Well, sounds good to me. I'll take it.
I'm not through. You actually get that discount for half a year. 27 issues. So you know what's going on in the world. In the nation, with politics, interesting people, the latest movies, your health, and technology. And you get it with all the color and insight only Time can deliver, so you really understand what's going on.
That's for me. I'll take it.
Not yet. You get free home delivery.
Great. I'll call.
Not so fast. Wait to see this.
What?
The Time 35mm camera. It's free with your paid subscription.
You gotta be kidding.
No, we're not. It has a 50mm fixed focus lens and a range of exposure settings, so you'll take great pictures.
I'll take it.
Wait. It comes with a protective lens cap and a neck strap.
Terrific.
And that's not all. You even get a handsome carrying case and a full-color guide to better picture taking. And all you have to do is call 1-800-621-6400.
Now?
Now. That's 27 issues of Time for almost half off, a free 35mm camera, lens cap, strap, carrying case, and photo guide, all for 3 easy payments of just $8.89.
Hello? I'll take it.
Hi, I'm Judy, one of the operators here at Time magazine, standing by to take your order. Call now and get this amazing offer. Time for almost half off the cover price and the Time 35mm camera free. But hurry, an offer this good won't be around forever.
It's 19 minutes after the hour. Time for the Headline Sports Report.
I'm Phil Van Horn, Headline Sports. With keeping in tune with the first week of the USFL, a quarterback starred in the league's first Monday night game. Walter Lewis, a second-year pro out of Alabama, fired 3 touchdown passes for Memphis. The Showboats won at San Antonio 20-3. Lewis fired a 25-yard strike to Greg Moser in the second quarter, a 35-yard touchdown aerial to Derek Crawford in the third period, closed it out with a 4-yard flip to Gary Shirk in the final quarter. For San Antonio, the Gunslingers' field goal, lowest offensive output first week of play in the league. On to college basketball, number 18 Virginia Commonwealth grabbed first place in the Sun Belt Conference with a 78-66 win at Old Dominion, led by guard Calvin Duncan's 18 points. Alfrederick Hughes, one of the leading scorers in the nation, scored 25 in Loyola's victory over Oral Roberts, 86-77. Ramblers, ranked 19th, are hot, their 13th straight victory. Number 4, Memphis State clinched the Metro regular season championship with a win at Southern Mississippi, 78-63. Second place team in the league, number 17, Virginia Tech, a winner at South Carolina, 78-67. The National Hockey League, an offensive explosion at Madison Square Garden. Winnipeg racked up 12 goals over the Rangers in a win 12-5. Laurie Boschman, Doug Smale, and Robert Picard scored a pair each. Minnesota beat Pittsburgh 5-4 with a 3-goal explosion in the second period, just 2 minutes of play. And Doug Wilson's game winner came in overtime as Chicago won at Toronto 4-3. One other baseball note, Atlanta Braves third base coach the past 3 seasons, Dal Maxwell, has been named general manager of the St. Louis Cardinals. Phil Van Horn, Headline Sports.
In the headlines, Mexican police have arrested 4 suspects in connection with the kidnapping of a U.S. drug agent. There's no word on the whereabouts of that agent. A Polish diplomat and his wife have until Wednesday to get out of the country. The U.S. ordered the couple to leave in retaliation for Poland's decision to expel a U.S. military attaché and his wife. And floods have forced hundreds from their homes in the Midwest. Rising waters closed dozens of roads from Michigan to Ohio. And in Indiana, forecasters are calling it the worst flooding in 20 years. With the top stories, I'm Emily Tierney.
If you have a little puppy like this in your house, a common behavioral problem that occurs is when they take to chewing on your household possessions. As puppies develop their permanent teeth, chewing and teething is to be expected. Provide them with chew toys like rawhide and nylon bones to keep them occupied. If shoes, socks, and other household items become objects of Fido's attention, you should quickly remove these and reprimand him. Say leave with a stern voice and give a gentle tug on the collar or lead. Then give the puppy one of the acceptable objects to chew on. If behavior modification doesn't work, then many trainers will recommend that you put a substance on the object which has an offensive taste. Products such as bitter apple, which is available in most pet stores, can be used and won't harm the animal. One word of caution though, be careful when using these substances on valuable items, as there may be some staining and a slight residual odor. I'm Dr. Steve Kritzik with People and Pets.
Stay tuned, the news continues.
Hey, I've got a secret fishing lake down in Florida where I caught my biggest bass. And now you and your best friend could join me there for 2 days, all expenses paid, and win yourself $1,000. Just enter Levi Garrett's Bill Dance Sweepstakes. Look for official rules and entry blanks wherever Levi Garrett chewing tobacco is sold. And if you don't land the big prize, you can still win an autographed copy of my latest fishing book. You know you're always a winner with Levi Garrett, because time after time, the quality comes soon. So get in the game and let's go fishing.
When a cold won't let you sleep, your whole body's misery cries out for relief. Take Robitussin Night Relief Colds Formula for a restful night's sleep. Night Relief for adults with medications that help clear your stuffy nose, stop coughs, reduce aches, pains, fever. Now get the nighttime relief your whole body's misery cries out for. Robitussin Night Relief Colds Formula for a restful night's sleep. The difference you'll appreciate in the morning. Robitussin Night Relief Colds Formula.
In business news, good news expected from the Commerce Department today when the new consumer price figures are released. Private economists say despite the severe winter weather, January price figures should be around 0.2%. The nation ended 1984 with an inflation rate of 4%, up slightly from 1983's rate of 3.9%. After a very profitable 1984, Pepsi has decided to stick pop artists for their singing commercials, and the choice is to kick off 1985 is Lionel Richie. Dennis Michael has the story.
Last year, Pepsi linked its main advertising campaign to pop music, specifically to the Jacksons. As it turns out, it was a successful move. Pepsi was the only cola drink in the U.S. to post sales gains in 1984, up 8%. So in 1985, the plan is the same. but the face has changed. Lionel Richie will be the standard bearer for the cola this year. Pepsi plans to introduce the splashy music video style ads during the Grammy Awards telecast in an unprecedented 3-minute-long commercial.
Beat of a generation is pounding. Got to get down before the magic gets away.
Richie, members of his band and his entourage, and even his 93-year-old grandmother appear in the ad. Pepsi will pay CBS $1.2 million to show the 3-minute spot on the Grammy cast. On the following night, MTV will air it for free as a pop music event. That will likely be the last time the 3-minute ad will be seen. Then it will be broken down to normal 1-minute commercials. Pepsi is not telling how much it cost to make the Richie ads, but they were shot with high production values at Universal Studios by famed music video director Bob Giraldi. Another figure Pepsi is keeping close to the chest, the amount paid to Lionel Richie himself.
It is megabucks. That's all I'll say on that.
The equivalent of 28 billion cans of Pepsi sold last year with the help of the Jacksons, representing $4 billion for the company. If Lionel Richie can help keep Pepsi the choice of a new generation, his megabuck fee will be worth it. Dennis Michael, CNN, Hollywood.
He's an American-born musician, but is in Japan practicing an art even some Japanese artists rarely master. Mal Adams has more on the man and his talent for learning a Japanese art.
Christopher Blaisdell came to Japan 12 years ago on a foreign student program. He already had a background in Western flutes and wind instruments and wanted to learn one of the various Japanese flutes. He says the shakuhachi struck him most. It is an instrument that is rarely mastered by Japanese musicians, much less foreigners.
Flutes of Asia have a whole world, a whole universe behind them that speak of an ethnic culture and other depths within the culture. And it was quite a shock or a surprise for me to hear these tones in these flutes. And so I decided on the shakuhachi, which is the representative flute of Japan.
Blaisdell says to learn the shakuhachi is to learn a segment of the culture, including religion, language, and customs. And though he has gotten a lot out of his experience here, he's also given a lot back. In addition to being a licensed teacher of the shakuhachi, Blaisdell makes his living conducting live performances, such as playing once a week in this Tokyo sushi restaurant. But his biggest reward, he says, comes from educating young Japanese about something of their own musical culture. When it comes to music, Blaisdell is a naturalist, and while he feels there is a place for electronics in the music world, he says it's time to get back to the basics of the acoustic sound, such as the natural tones of the bamboo shakuhachi. Mal Adams, CNN, Tokyo.
And that's our report. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jane Akre. Around the world every half hour, this is Headline News.